All right. Good evening and welcome to this week's Traveling on Everyday Spend live stream. Want to thank you all for coming on. Want to let you all know that this is live stream is being recorded, and at the conclusion, I will go ahead and create chapters for this to make everything's easier for people that have been able to participate on the live stream, as well as for people that are watching this afterwards. We have the live stream normally every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I want to just start off again by thanking each and every one of you that have participated in the live stream, that have watched the videos, that have liked and subscribed and shared. Can't thank you all enough. It means the world to me. And I would be remiss if I don't say, if you find anything that's valuable to you during this live stream, please consider liking and subscribing. It really means the world to me, and it really helps out the channel a great deal. So I can't thank you all enough. I obviously want to be good about you and your time. So I think we will go ahead and get started. We got a lot of things to cover tonight. And let's get this going. We're going to obviously cover the credit card offers that we have going on. We're going to talk about the increase in prices for global entry and nexus. We're going to talk about the JetBlue baggage fee increase, and a second time in not so long since the last time that they raised the fees. We're going to then kind of touch on, there's a lot of buying opportunities of points and some different promotions that are going on. So I wanted to take some time tonight to really kind of touch on some principles to being really successful with points and miles, and especially in regards to redemptions. I've been blessed enough to be able to do the travel that I do have, to be able to do it almost completely on points and miles. And I actually had a trip planned for Christmas time, and a bucket list item came up for me, and it really showed me that by doing these principles, it really allowed me the chance to take advantage of an opportunity that really is more of a once in a lifetime for me and for my wife. So it really kind of told me that I wanted to kind of take a few minutes to touch on these things today, and hopefully it can be beneficial to you, whether you're new to this or you're well seasoned. So let's go and touch on, and let's go and get started. So the first topic we're going to look at is obviously the credit card offers. Not a whole lot going on. We obviously had a really good flurry of credit card offers over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and we're kind of slowly but surely not seeing a bunch more. But we do still have some pretty good ones that are available. We've got the Hilton credit cards through American Express that's going to be ending on April 17th. I did a review on those in the March 14th live stream with details on those credit cards. And so I will be sure to put a link for that at the conclusion for you to be able to easily get to that. We've got the Marriott credit cards through American Express that we have through May 1st. We did a deep dive on the whole Bonvoy program and all of the credit cards, including Chase when they were having their promotions with it. The American Express's ends May 1st. So we'll take I'll put a link for that on the same for March 7th on that live stream. Chase, not seeing anything at all. For Citi, we touched on the Citi Custom Cash last week on the live stream, and we don't have a deadline of when that's going to end yet, but it's a very good card. It's one that still is one I need to end up getting related to my Citi credit cards. It's at 5% on your highest category. It really becomes an excellent utility card to kind of pick up a gap that you might have in your credit card portfolio, for whether it's for gas or for groceries or for home improvement. So it's a really good option to consider. And then, of course, the Citi Advantage Platinum I talked about. It's still on a limited time offer. I did that on the March 20th live stream. I'll put that link down there as well. But those are the only credit card offers, at least the major ones. There's always some little ones, but I normally want to touch on the biggest opportunities so that it can benefit you in your journey for this. So, but that's what we're looking at as far as credit card offers. Topic 2 is global entry and nexus. A lot of people that have even definitely premium credit cards, but even potentially some mid-tier cards have, and definitely some travel credit cards of airlines and hotels have credits related to global entry. And so global entry ended up is going to be increasing their prices as of October 1st. They're going to be raising it from $100 to $120. They haven't raised fees, as far as I know, for, as I put down, almost 15 years. So it's not a dramatic change, but it is something to be aware of. But there are a couple of changes that they have done that might be very beneficial. As far as minors that are under the age of 18, if you have a minor that's applying with the parent or guardian at the same time, there will be no more application fee applied to the minor beginning on that same October 1st start date. And that's going to be a savings to a lot of people that end up doing that. But it has to be done at the same time as the parent or guardian. If it's done separately, you will continue to have to pay that application fee. And then lastly, just as far as what global entry is, it's a program to allow low-risk travelers to be able to get expedited immigration when returning to the United States. And the membership is valid for 5 years. I got my global entry last year and was able to use it to come back in from the Dominican Republic, going through Atlanta, which is a very busy airport. It was an excellent way to expedite my process. So I definitely recommend it, especially if you've got a credit card that has it. The only downside to global entry is that to do the application process, you have to do it in person. And for some people, it may not be very close to home. In my case, I've got a major airport right in my town, but they did not have the access to global entry. So I had to drive an hour and a half away to do the application process. But the application process will be very quick. It took me less than 10 minutes to do it. So this definitely didn't like an hour and a half drive to get there, but it was well worth it. And it's good for 5 years. So if you have, especially if you have a credit card that has global entry, TSA PreCheck available, definitely consider looking at that. And TSA PreCheck comes with global entry. Nexus, which is an interesting one. I've heard of it, but I didn't really explore it as an opportunity because the people in the United States normally are not anticipated to get it. But the Nexus program was only $30. I'm sorry, $50. And now it's going to raise up to the $120 amount as of October 1st as well. And with Nexus, you are getting TSA PreCheck and global entry, as well as expedited immigration related to Canada. And so it is a more complicated process than global entry, but it was a significant bargain to have all of those trusted partner programs as part of Nexus for only $50. So it's now raising up to the prices to be similar to global entry. So not surprising, it is a steep jump, but it is still going to be competitive overall, because that's really the only program that exists for this, especially for expedited immigrate into getting into Canada. As far as thoughts, as I mentioned, this is the first time that they've increased prices in 15 years. And especially the global entry amount is really not much at all. The interesting thing will end up being is there are a lot of credit cards that had enough money of $100 credit to cover the entire cost of global entry to be able to get in. So will the credit cards not make an adjustment, stay at $100, and then we now need to pick up that $20 cost, or will they adjust? That's going to be something we'll have to see. It's not a major dollar amount, but it's always good. It's very interesting to see what credit cards do when there are adjustments being made, and do they look to try to save money, or do they look to try to benefit the customer a little bit more? So we'll learn learn a little bit at least from the different credit cards of what they do in this type of program. As far as topic 3, we're going to look at JetBlue and their baggage fees. Now, there was a few live streams back when I talked about how the U.S. government was talking about trying to put through legislation for junk fees and looking to try to deal with resort fee costs and different for families that wanted to travel on the same class and on an airline, all those different things. And I said then that these are for-profit companies. They will always find a way to get a level of recoupment of the loss that they may get through multiple different ways. And right around that time, we saw most of the major airlines raise their baggage fees. And JetBlue was one of them, but now they have come back and are raising it again, and actually has introduced something that is not very common. In fact, one that I'm not aware of anyone that's doing. And so this is the second fee increase in recent weeks. And now they are introducing peak bag pricing. Now, if you end up paying for your baggage more than 24 hours in advance, you'll get a discount of $10. But when you're looking at this new peak bag pricing, it's been applied to it's almost half of the dates throughout the year, including holidays, over the summer, and more. And so for JetBlue, their first bag peak fee increase is going to be a $5 increase if it's peak. And if it's your second bag, it's going to be $10. This is almost basically giving JetBlue some of the highest baggage fees of any of the major airlines with this. But as we've talked about, there's once one entity, whether it's an airline, whether it's a car maker, once somebody does something and it gets accepted, you can expect others to follow along because that's more money that they are able to make. So I would not be surprised if this goes without a lot of pushback from consumers, that we don't see this from other airlines in the near future. So as far as my thoughts, as I talked about, we've already seen baggage fees increase by the major airlines. These charges are going, as I mentioned, are going to put them on the high end of the baggage fees. And so when it comes to JetBlue, if you're someone that flies them normally, you probably are going to want to look at some of the opportunities, whether it's going to be a certain status that you may have if you fly with them often, to look at their JetBlue credit card, or if you're flying JetBlue Mint, then you're not paying as much in the baggage fees. So just as I would say for any airline, if you fly often, make sure that you're looking at what opportunities there are for you to reduce those costs. And it could even be something as simple as, I use that word loosely, even if you have the American Express Platinum card and you pick that airline to be able to use to cover the airline credit, these baggage fees could be covered. But definitely if you have a airline card that is specifically to them, you're normally going to get some kind of baggage free. So keep those things in mind as you're trying to maneuver this minefield of baggage fee increases and other things. So, but I just wanted to touch on that so nobody is surprised by that if you normally fly JetBlue. So now I wanted to move to topic 4, and let me actually go to, I actually have a comment. Global entry is so convenient and has helped improve the experience at the airport. You are exactly right. These different things, whether it is global entry, TSA pre-check, clear, it has been an absolute no-brainer for me, especially with credit cards that are paying for most or all of these things to experience them. But I'm a person that does not like to fly a whole lot. So anything that can be able to reduce my stress going through the process to get to the airport, let alone be at the airport, is welcome for me. And so I appreciate your comment, Mr. Coco. So now I wanted to move to kind of topic 4, and I want to kind of take, as we look at some of these next current events that we're going to see on these on our topics, I want to kind of take a look at some steps for being successful with points and miles, which I obviously want every person that's watching this live stream or participating in any video to really be able to maximize points and miles for you, your family, your significant other, to really be able to do some things or to make your experiences better as they've done for me. When I look at this, I've talked about before that there are really 4 steps that I think that can really make you have every chance of being successful with points and miles. And I basically go with the first step of being goal setting. And that's when you're talking about where you want to travel, when you want to travel, and how you want to travel. And my brief explanation of that is you need to have, if you're having a goal for, let's say, next year, because a lot of us are going to have to plan ahead for trips to get the points accumulated. And if you're like me and my wife, we both work 9-to-5 jobs, so time is limited. So you need to kind of factor those things in. So when you're talking about where, you want to have an idea of where you want to go, because by knowing that initially, even if it's a region, I mean, if you know you want to go to Disney, that's great. Then you know exactly what you want. But even if you know you want to go to Europe, but you may not have picked that country that you want to do in Europe, it's a start. That helps you start with knowing what are going to be the opportunities and the pathways to be able to be successful with what you want to be able to do. And when I talk about the win, that's exactly what I'm talking about. When you're working 9-to-5 like me, I have a limited time to be able to take vacation, and I got to schedule the vacation ahead of time. And so I know that by my win, I know if I'm going to hit some peak costs because it's the peak season. I'm also going to know that there may be some opportunities that others may have that don't have the restrictions in time that I do, to they may be able to do more than I can do, and that's fine. But knowing when you are able to travel is going to be able to help you understand of what the opportunities are as well. And then as far as how you're going to travel, when I'm talking about how, it's basically when you're talking about, are you a person that is going to fly economy? Are you going to fly premium economy? Are you going to fly domestic first class? Or are you going to fly international business? So those things will help you to be able to understand as far as the costs, because obviously if you're flying economy, you're going to be able to get some very good prices. And then as you keep moving up the ladder, you'll have to determine what your comfort level is in addition to in relation to the pricing. So in my younger years, I might have been much more willing, and having a younger family, I may have been much more willing to consider flying economy to be able to get more frequency of travel if I had that time. Now, at my stage where I'm at, I want to fly first class, premium economy, international business. So that lets me know I need to build in more cost, more points to be able to fly the way I want to. And so those are the things that you have to start with to really have a goal and to know what you're trying to work towards. And those are the things that are going to be able to help you a lot as you start. And then the second item is, where are you starting with your journey? So if you are a person that's got great credit and you've got a lot of resources available to you, you're going to be able to know where you're going to be able to start or continue when it comes to credit cards, intro bonuses, in the frequency that you're going to be able to do that with, so that you can have realistic goals of how long will it take you to accumulate so many points to be able to get to that goal of where you wanted to go and how you wanted to get there. If you are starting a little further back, and once again, where you start doesn't matter. It's understanding where you're starting from. So if you're starting and the credit may not be perfect, and you've got some bills to pay, and maybe you're paying some interest on credit cards you already have, then we just have to look at taking some additional time to bring you up to the point where you're not paying interest. Because if you're paying interest on credit cards, then you're basically not going to, it's impossible to win at the game of points and miles. So if you have to get started with that first, it's okay. We all got to start someplace. So being honest and understanding where you're at is truly the first step in that process. And then developing a plan through research. And that gets to the whole first two parts. So if I know I want to go to Europe, and let's say I want to go to France, and I'm willing to fly economy, then I know that flying blues from Air France, KLM, are ones in which they have a lot of different promotions, and one that we're going to talk about tonight, where it makes it very doable to be able to get there at a very low points and miles value. So that's what I talk about when researching, knowing where you want to go and what are going to be the pathways to get there to be able to maximize those points. And then lastly is the execution, how you're going to execute as far as being able to pull the trigger on cashing in those points to be able to get that trip that you want. So that's what I wanted to just kind of touch on originally, to talk about that through your everyday spend, you can enjoy the travel that many of us really couldn't accomplish without it. And anyone can be successful. And once again, no matter where you're starting, you have every opportunity to be able to be successful. And so my only goal and the goal of this channel is to be able to aid you in your success, and hopefully be able to learn from the mistakes that I've made as well as the successes that I've had. So I'm hopeful that that can be able to help everyone. So let's talk about these April transfer bonuses. And that's kind of one of the big things that you have to look at when you're looking at points accumulation, is what are going to be the opportunities that you have to maximize or get outsized value of your points that you accumulate, your miles that you accumulate. So so here in the month of April, American Express has Etihad guest with a 20% promotional through April 4th. We've got Capital One that has Virgin Red for 30% through April 30th. And if you already have a Virgin Atlantic, let's say, membership, all you have to do is link it to the Virgin Red, and you can transfer your points both ways. It's really not complicated at all. It's just a matter that Virgin has different ways of how they do things. And then Citi has Avianca, which I've touched on a few videos. Very versatile program, and they have it at 30% through April 13th. The main thing I would end up saying with transfer bonuses, none of these, they're good, but nothing is earth-shattering. You never want to transfer your points to a fixed system like Etihad, Virgin, or Avianca, where once you take your Chase points or your Citi thank you points and you move them there, you've lost all flexibility out of it. So you want to make sure that you don't pull the trigger on a transfer bonus unless you know that you're going to use it, and because you don't want to lose the opportunity. And like I said, these increases are not ones that are earth-shattering. They can be obtained at a lot of different points as you go forward. So now let's look at Hilton. I'm going to look at a few options that are in regards to buying points. And buying points is something to be very careful of as well. And you'll hear me mention about being cautious and being careful, because there's I won't say there's nothing worse, but it's a very significant situation when you end up transferring these flexible points that you could do so much with, and you've transferred them to something. And let alone if you're going to spend money to buy points in a system that is fixed like Hilton. You really need to make sure you know what you're doing. So the Hilton promotion ends on May 14th of this year. You need to basically log into your account, create a Hilton Honors account if you don't already have one, and most likely you already have one. But if you don't, create one, and if you do, log into yours. And basically what you're seeing, a lot of people are seeing, is that they have 100% bonus. I went into my Hilton account and saw that there was 100% bonus going on. And with the purchase of 5,000 or more Hilton points. So it sounds good on the surface. Anything that's 100% sounds good. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the facts, though. So Hilton Honors normally actually charges 1 cent per point when you're buying points from them. With this 100% bonus, you're actually are going to be at half a cent, which is a significant reduction. The maximum purchase of points is 240,000 points, which is a 50% increase of the normal 160,000 points you're able to purchase before the bonuses kick in. And you can continue, you can combine points with, if you have family members or friends that also have Hilton Honors memberships, you can be able to do that. So you can actually even expand how many points you can buy because of the multiple accounts you may be dealing with. So there's a lot of flexibility in regards to being able to buy Hilton points. Now, so some of my thoughts in regards to it. So buying points, as I mentioned, should not be taken lightly. Even regardless of the best deal, we're still talking about you spending money for points. So you need to have a plan for what you're doing. You need to research for it. So know that you're going to use those points in the very near future. And as far as how to purchase, even though you're buying it through Hilton, unfortunately, it's through points.com that you're buying it. So if you have a Hilton credit card where you get additional points for Hilton purchases, it will not work or help you in this case because it is points.com. So you want to basically look at some catch-all cards that you may have, whether it be the American Express Blue Business Plus that has 2%, or the Capital One Venture X that's 2%, the Citi Double Cash that's 2%. Any of those catch-all ones are the ones that you're going to be looking at to make that purchase. In the points guy, who I normally will look at for valuations, values Hilton at 0.6 cents per point. And so in this case, you can be able to buy it at half a cent. So it is a good deal. You can buy up a lot of points. So definitely, if you have any interest or need for Hilton points and you have the wherewithal to be able to do it, this is actually a very good deal. This is one of the highest ones they've had in the last year or two, where they've topped out at 100%. So once again, if there's a plan that you have that might involve Hilton points, consider it. The next program is Qatar, buying Qatar points. Now this one ends soon, and Qatar has Avios. And so the Avios points are ones that are the same as for British Airways, Aer Lingus, Iberia, and Qatar. So there is flexibility of these Avios being used amongst multiple airlines. So for Qatar, they have a breakdown of 3,000 to 15,000 Avios points for 20%, of 16 to 30,000 points get you a 30% bonus, and 31,000 to 250,000 points get you 50%. They normally are charging anywhere from 2.3 to 2.8 cents per mile when they normally sell this. With the 50%, you're going to come down to about 1.53 points. Cents per point. You can buy up to 250,000 of these Avios. And in order to make the purchase, though, you do need to have earned at least 1,000 Avios in your account prior to this. As far as my thoughts, I use this just really as an example. Same things as I talked about on Hilton. You need to make sure that you're not taking this lightly. You need to really have a good reason for being able to do this. This is also another case of where points.com is the one that's you're using to purchase. So once again, use your best catch-all card if you want to do this. Now, this is not the best redemption that they've had for buying points. As I note there, it was 80% twice in 2023. So this is not the best offer that they've had compared to what we saw with Hilton. And then, as far as I mentioned, Qatar Avios can be utilized between multiple programs. This would be only one that I would end up saying to use if you absolutely need to top off your points for a very specific trip. That point valuation of what you're going to spend is very high. It's not a good deal, but if you have to have some Qatar points or some Avios points, then it's worth considering. If you've got more time involved and you're not necessarily earning points, because keep in mind, if you're even doing British Airways, you can transfer points to British Airways and then be able to get it to Qatar as far as Avios. So definitely there are other avenues to be able to go through if you need Avios points than just buying it through Qatar at that very high rate. So I just wanted to use that as an example of something that probably is not good for most people. And then we have buying Emirates Skyward points. They are into the act through April 11th. They're requiring you to buy a minimum of 25,000 miles, which is pretty high as a minimum requirement to be eligible for the 25% bonus. They normally charge 3 cents a point per mile, and that is really high. Even with that 25%, it's still going to put you at 2.4 cents per point. So this is another case where I want to make sure to kind of just present these opportunities to you all so that you are aware of them, even if I might not think that they're good or they're good for most people. I want you to have the information so that you can make the best decision for you as well as your family. So same things. Points.com is the one that is producing this. They have had 40 and 30% bonuses, so this is by far not earth-shattering. Points Guy only values these points for Emirates Skyward at only 1.2 cents, and you're going to be paying at minimum, at best, 2.4 cents per mile. So it's not a great conversion, but there's going to be times where we might have to bite the bullet if we need to top off some points. So once again, just want to be able to show that to you all so that you're aware. So now let's talk about a couple of promotions that are going on that actually are ones that you really should consider depending upon what your goals are. And this is another example of being able to really extend the mileage that you have out of the points and miles that you gain. And Flying Blue is a perfect example of what they do each month. So this is the April promo for them, and they're offering discounted redemptions of points to points throughout Europe, locations throughout Europe. You do have to make the bookings by the end of this month, and your travel is valid for travel through September 30th. So you do have a window of time, but there are some good things about it. As far as the deals offer, I wanted to kind of make a few notes on here that for business, it's going to Europe from Montreal for starting at only 37,500 miles to go from Canada to Europe. That is an outstanding value as long as the times fit for what you're looking to be able to do. Premium economy, once again, from Canada going from Quebec to Europe, premium economy, only 17,500 miles. And that's, once again, is an outstanding value. Now, unfortunately, or in our case here in the United States, there are no deals that are being offered unless you are flying economy. So I've made a few notes of there, whether you're going from Atlanta, Chicago, Boston, or DC, that you can be able to fly starting at only 15,000 miles. So once again, when I talk about where, when, and how you want to get there, if you're up for flying economy and you want to go to Europe here at a peak time for their summer, this is an outstanding value for being able to do that flying on Air France. Now, as far as my thoughts on this, I actually made a mistake of having Lufthansa there. That's not on this one, so my apologies on it. But actually, there's even a 25% transfer redemption bonus if you're doing it through Chase through April 30th. So if you knew that you wanted to take advantage of this promotion, and they're limited, so it's not every single flight in every single seat. So you do have to be able to look on there to see if there's one available for when you want to go. But if you find that and then are able to take advantage of a 25% transfer, you're even getting bigger value of not flying for just 15,000 points, for flying for so much less. So something to consider on there. And as I mentioned, it may not be the most exciting for people that want to be able to fly business class, but if you just want to be able to go to Europe and you're good with economy, these are some of the best deals you're going to be able to find for especially a peak summer time. And even with the Olympics there are up there, I have seen where there have been a few seats that have been still fallen in this, even around that time. So if interested, definitely take a look. The next item is Lufthansa. They do a promotion of their Lufthansa Miles and More. And in this one, like I mentioned, it's a regular promotion for discounted redemptions on a few flights, a few airlines that are kind of part of their integrated partners, from Australian, Brussels, Eurowings Discover, I'm sorry, LOT Polish, Lufthansa, and Swiss Airlines. Bookings must be made by the April 30th, and it's valid for travel between July 7th and August 31st. There are, from the United States, there are 218 flights that fall in this promotion. 106 business class, only 6 premium economy, and 106 economy class deals. You can be flying business class for as little as 37,000 miles. Now, there are a few things that you definitely have to consider with it, because while the point conversions look really good, and they are, there's definitely some things to keep in mind. Number one, you have to purchase this with Lufthansa Miles, and unfortunately, Lufthansa doesn't have a transfer partner, which is kind of rare for a lot of these airlines. I mean, have seen American and we've seen Alaska Airlines be in the similar situation. Lufthansa is as well. So their points are not the easiest to be able to get. Now they do, I mentioned it, I'm showing a credit card up there from Barclays for their Miles and More, with 50,000 award miles for just spending $3,000 in the first 90 days, as well as paying for the annual fee. That 50,000 points could be enough to take you round trip on this. So I would say to keep that in mind, or at least explore the credit card. It's very similar to a lot of airline credit cards, 2x when you're buying airline tickets, and essentially 1x on everything else. But the biggest thing to be aware of is that Lufthansa, as well as these partners, charge the surcharge for fuel. And you could pay flying round trip, you could easily pay $700 to $1,000. And that's something you have to kind of look at if you're interested in this, to be able to look at what those fees are, because they really eat up any kind of value that you get very quickly. And that's why you would normally see, without this kind of promotion, you would see people using Avianca, you would see people using Air Canada Aeroplan, are ones where people commonly get on Lufthansa as a transfer partner and don't have the fuel surcharges. So definitely, once again, as I say, research your goals of what you want to be able to do. This is a perfect example. There are other avenues. Lufthansa is not the only way to fly Lufthansa using their points and miles. There are ones where you can save on that fuel surcharge, and it's worth considering. So I just want to make sure everyone is completely aware of that. Now, the Alaska Airlines is an interesting one as well. Alaska Airlines, as we've talked about in one or two of our last live streams, have talked about how they've changed their whole mileage system and their award charts, mainly because they've become distance-based. So their sweet spots have changed for if you've looked at those before, and we've talked about those in a previous live stream of some of the new sweet spots that come with Alaska Airlines. But as they've done this, they are now looking at doing quarterly sales. And so we've just started Q2. And so up to 50% off of flying from the United States to essentially multiple different islands, whether it's the Bahamas, Fiji, Maldives, and even Tahiti and Zanzibar. So if you've had thoughts of flying to one of those islands, maybe this might be something from you, especially if you're flying from the United States. The bookings have to be done, being completed by the end of the month, April 30th, and you have a window of September 1st through November 30th to actually take your flight. The points are very low. Once again, you're looking at anywhere from 15,000 points going to the Bahamas to as high as 30,000 points if you're going to the Maldives. As I mentioned, it's a new sale, quarterly type sale that Alaska is doing, something for us to look at. And while the guidelines say that you have to originate in the United States, there have been some cases, and I've seen it as well, where I've been able to look at flying from the destination, such as Fiji, to the United States, and have been able to see that that same point value has been there. So once again, if you've got a short window and you have an interest at looking at that, it's worth looking at, and you can do it easily on Alaska Airlines website to be able to explore it. But once again, these kind of sales are very good, but they have to fit in regards to when you want to go. So that's why I keep stressing on those 4 steps, that as long as you have that plan in how you want it to be able to do things, you can easily look at these point deals, these quarterly sales, these monthly promos, and be able to quickly determine, oh, it fits for me because I planned on going then. But if you didn't have any plan going until December, none of these matter. So definitely look at those steps to be able to plan. So this topic I wanted to look at, because this is what kind of drove me to even kind of talk about this today. And I really learned a good lesson, and I wanted to be able to share it with you all. So I had planned on my wife and I going to the Dominican again during the Christmas time for an extended period of time to go to one of the Hyatt all-inclusives. So I already was planning out the amount of miles that I needed to be able to use and some conversions from Chase to be able to go to Hyatt. And so I was putting all of this together already. And I really believe in diversification. So I've got points pretty much everywhere in some amount, whether it's Citi, American Express, Chase, Capital One, Alaska miles, American Airline miles, all of those that I have. But mainly I focus for me on Chase being my resource for Hyatt and American Express being my use for airlines, and then kind of pick and place wherever I need to from go there on. But we've had a kind of a bucket list kind of travel that we wanted to be able to do. And it was basically to go to Australia during New Year's Eve. We've always have looked at the fireworks there off the bridge there in Sydney as just an amazing type place to be able to go. And there's actually a Hyatt hotel that is essentially right underneath the bridge. It is incredibly hard to get into. I've tried the last couple of years when they have opened up the availability 1 year ahead of time, and it has been not available for point purchase. So I've not been able to do that. And I had the opportunity as I was working on the trip to the Dominican. I just thought I would take just a flyer just to see what if there was any openings in at Park Hyatt. And lo and behold, there was availability, and that began a whirlwind experience of being able to see what I could put together really fast. Part of it ended up being a bit lucky, and I will definitely admit that. But being lucky, you have to have some planning to be able to take advantage of the luck, and that's what has helped us. So when I'm talking about that, so we were able to book the Park Hyatt during the Christmas New Year's holiday, um, which isn't a low price in points. But I've done so well of being able to keep chase points for Hyatt that I had enough points for it. Then you're talking about flying to Australia, and that is a 15-hour flight here, 13 to 15-hour flight from the mainland here in the United States. And I've never flown that far. And I wanted to be able to look at different opportunities. So let me kind of show a little bit of what I'm looking at. So as far as the road to redemption, as I'll call it, down under, I looked at, so I've got to look at lodging at the Park Hyatt during a period for New Year's Eve, flight to Sydney. So I'm looking at Qantas, lodging in Sydney at the Hyatt Regency, because I ended up having to have to create a little bit more flexibility for another opportunity that I had for a flight. So I'm going to be looking at staying at the Hyatt Regency in Sydney for a few days before I move to the Park Hyatt in Sydney. Then, of course, a flight from where I'm located to Los Angeles, then a flight from Sydney back to the United States to home, and then lodging at LAX in Los Angeles. So a lot of pieces needed to be addressed very fast. And so basically kind of looked at things. So so the Park Hyatt in Sydney is 45,000 points per night. Now, what worked out for me in my planning was the all-inclusive hotel that I was looking at, planning for the Dominican Republic, was essentially that same amount of points. So I had the points in reserve that allowed me to be able to jump on being able to go to the Park Hyatt really quickly. Then Qantas had an outstanding deal. It's to be able to fly first class for 162,500 points per seat. And amazingly, they actually had 2 seats. So once again, time is of the essence. I don't have a whole lot of time before those seats are gone. And so I was able to pull from American Express, from Capital One, and from Citi to be able to pull up enough points of over 300,000 points to be able to secure the flight to Sydney in first class, which couldn't believe it. Then the Hyatt Regency Sydney is only 12,000 points per night. I will probably pay cash for that because it's not the best deal in the world, but I could do it. The flight to LAX, I'm using my American Express Delta credit card to bring down the points that are needed by 15%, which applies to all of their Delta, the main Delta credit cards that I've talked about before. And so Delta can get me there at a fair price or in points. Then I had to figure out flying back from Sydney here to the United States. Well, I had drained almost all my points to be able to do all of these things already. So to fly back, I had obviously had some cash available. So I am going to pay cash because I used up all my points, used it up for all of this. It's a lot of points, but was able to do it. And then once again, for the Hyatt Regency, I'm able to get chase points that I have and convert them to Hyatt. So there's a lot going on here. And this is what I talk about. If I would not have had a plan in place and I wasn't diversified in regards to my points, there was no way this could happen. It wouldn't have been possible. Like I said, I had to get all of this arranged in about 48 hours. And I was already out on vacation when this popped up. But it's just a reminder that the ability for you to plan and do things correctly, gives you the chance of taking advantage of something that you're lucky to be able to get. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. And while I may be talking about this bucket list aspirational thing, these things can be just as simple as if you're flying to Disney, being able to maximize the opportunity that may come up, to have the points in the right places, that you've earned them properly. So I just wanted to be able to kind of share that with you all in regards to it. So I wanted to kind of get more to show you what these points can truly do for you. So the 260,000 points that I'm using to stay at the Park Hyatt Sydney is for that room is going to cost me, and this is a base room. I'm not talking about anything real fancy. But because it's during New Year's, that hotel room is costing me, if I was paying cash, nearly $13,000. So I'm going to get 5 cents a point for this. And that is one of the biggest reasons of why Hyatt is such an amazing value when it comes to the hotels, because they're not dynamic pricing. So it doesn't matter that it is New Year's Eve. I am paying peak price, but it is a fixed peak price for a room that is escalated all the way to over $2,000 a night. So that is a big deal. And that is something that any of us could do with proper planning. The flight to Sydney, I got lucky that they had award space for first class going to Sydney. I had to move a lot of points around really quick. That flight to fly, if I was paying cash, is over $12,000 per seat, one way, just one way. I'm astonished at the price, just even looking at it. So the 2 seats just to fly from the United States to Sydney is cost, if I was paying cash, would be over $25,000. For that, I'm getting 8 cents per point. Now, I've never done anything with Qantas at all, but because I was diversified enough, I was able to have some time to find which were the transfer partners, and I had points at enough places to be able to pull that together. The Hyatt Regency Sydney is not, just under $1,000. I'll probably look at paying cash for that. It's not a great redemption, but once again, the value of a redemption is what it is in your eyes. So if I do end up looking like I'm running short of dollars, I will be more than happy to pay points for that. So while I say it's not a great redemption value, it can be, when it comes to each of us, we determine what's our best redemption. The flight to LAX, a couple of $1,000. The flight back on Qantas, back, because I had a few different options. But once again, it's a matter of how you want to fly. So I looked at Delta because I still had Delta points, but I did not like the options that I had in regards to flying back. Once again, it's a 15-hour flight. I have no idea how it'll be for me. So I decided that I wanted to go ahead and fly Qantas Premium Economy because it provided a few little bit more creature comforts to hopefully make the flight bearable for me. So yes, I'm going to pay some money out, but once again, I was in a position to be able to do that if I needed to, because I was looking at, this is a scale of trip that I was already looking at in time and how I might spend money. And then the Hyatt Regency LAX, same situation. I could use points or I could pay money out, but having the options is what matters. So what does all this mean? So I'm about done with it now. I'm going to be cashing out 786,000 points and miles for a cash value that would be nearly $41,000 for essentially a 10-day trip to Australia through Christmas and New Year's. 5.2 cents per point per mile, per point or mile. It's a bucket list. It has drained most of my points. I still do have some, but that's the kind of thing that I wanted to be able to share with you all, that of what this is a trip there I would never be able to do in cash. There's no way I would even want to spend that level of money, let alone could save that kind of money and put it together for that. But with points and miles, it is allowing me to do something I would never be able to do. And it's the perfect example of what it could be for each of you. No matter what the scale of trip that you want to be able to do, this is a perfect example of points and miles being able to get you that trip. And keep in mind, because I have limitations on my time, I didn't get the best deals, the best sweet spots to be able to do this. If this was not during Christmas, New Year's, I know that there are times where you could do, instead of me spending 162,000 points for a first class seat in Qantas with a nonstop, you could get it for almost 80,000 points. But those don't exist. And I had to move so fast in regards to it. So the main thing I want you to be able to take from this example I'm providing to you is that have a plan for what you want to be able to do. Know the time frame that you have for you to be able to do it. And because you plan and you do those things and you diversify yourself enough, you give yourself a chance to maybe be able to pivot if you need to or want to take another trip without starting from zero. I was lucky enough and planned well enough that I didn't have to start from zero. I was able to pivot midstream to be able to do it. And it's, like I said, it's a perfect example of being able to do something that I would never be able to do in money with points. And those points were accumulated probably over about 2 years, with a lot of intro bonuses, a lot of credit cards that we were able to cash out on, especially with Chase and American Express, to be able to do that. And yes, you can plan, you can have those points in miles, and they do devalue. There's no doubt about it. But as long as you know what you want to be able to do, you can prepare for those changes, those devaluations and such. My plan for going to the Dominican for Hyatt, they just raised all their prices, all their points. But I knew what I wanted to do, and I already reserved it and had it done ahead of time. So once again, I just want to provide that example. And if anybody have questions or anything about points and miles, about conversions and planning, please don't hesitate to ask in regards to it. And if it's something I don't know, I'll be more than happy to find it out. While I may have a lot of experience with this, I can always learn something else. So, but that's kind of what I wanted to take everybody through, so that you can understand and hopefully see the passion, the interest that I have in regards to points and miles as a person that has seen it work for me every year. Even though this is a aspirational trip, my first aspirational trip I've ever taken, even when it's just going out to Las Vegas, even if it's just going to any place in the continental United States, it still can mean so much to you, to me, and I know it can mean the most to you. So definitely follow the channel. There'll be a lot more to talk about. The video that I'm going to have on Saturday is to be able to kind of show people once again of redemptions that you're able to do during the summer, that you may not be able, that you may not know of how close within reach some of these trips that you can that you may want, that you can get with proper planning. So I want to thank everybody, and definitely put any comments, put your thoughts into this. I'll definitely have the recording up soon, but make sure to let me know of what your thoughts and what your dreams and maybe some trips that you're looking to take. And can't thank you all enough for you all support, and everybody have a great evening.